Mike, the brilliant Ivy League dopes at Harvard are coming under increasing scrutiny. How you doing?
Good, my man. How's your stretch of well, you're not really on house arrest. I somebody said to me the other day, I think in the house, worried about catching this virus, worried about catching that. I said, if Jason Goodman doesn't pass out and die from coronavirus, nobody will. This guy is like was all over. So I'm just waiting for you to just, start coughing and look like Tom Hanks in the movie Philadelphia, and then I'll know that this was really we.
Thanks.
That's kind of the fun we have. We just wait and see if you're drop. No, I'm kidding with you, but it is kind of ironic, right? You were all over the city and talking to people, and why don't you have something like this? It's very strange, the whole thing.
It's a fair point that you raise. I was a bit of a canary in the coal mine here. I was talking to homeless guys. I was talking to EMTs, people outside the hospital. I was riding the subway for 2 months, and nothing.
Yeah, I was on the subway with you. And I'm like,
Right.
what are we doing on the subway? And then then I'm thinking, subway and coronavirus is a small price to pay for a good Italian meal, and
That was the early days. Restaurants were still open. But Mike,
yeah.
what about this video with Dr. Erickson? He was really getting slammed by other medical, bodies. I thought what this guy said made a lot of sense, and it jived with things that other MDs have told me. He was talking about how this concept of herd immunity was perhaps more medically sound than locking healthy people in their houses. He even said that, staying out of the public and locking down like this for 2 months was something of an exercise or an experiment that hadn't been tried before. And if you think about it, if you've ever been in the hospital or you're bedridden, your muscles atrophy surprisingly quickly. I mean, I had knee surgery and it took a long time to rehab my strength in my legs. So, I mean, if all of our immune systems are getting weakened by this lockdown, this could be a disaster waiting to happen.
He had a lot of hits on that video, and he made a lot of sense. And I've myself and other people have made the contention that guys like this should have been piped in to DC either via Skype or something, and they should be the ones sitting in the press gallery asking these frauds on the dais these medical questions and watch them squirm instead of having basically certifiable cement heads, drug addicts, and drunks in the press corps sit there and throw stupid questions about stupid things when we're all sitting at home looking for answers. We should have had professionals, frontline doctors in some type of a capacity asking these so-called doctors in the White House, who probably are less qualified than Dr. Pepper, to answer meaningful questions, right? I mean,
Absolutely. The press was brutal on these two guys, and they were presenting facts and data and evidence. Fauci gives them, made up numbers from projections, and they think he's fantastic. Brad Pitt was like effusive with praise. I mean, not that he's a medical genius, but that Saturday Night Live cold open was the furthest thing from funny I could imagine, and it's just disgraceful.
well, it's funny to them, right? Fauci would watch this video of these two doctors, and then the first thing he would say is, first of all, they're not practicing, distancing, social distancing. That's my first problem. And then it's like stupid things like this guy's talking about all the time. And it's coming out. These guys are frauds. They're fraudsters. They're
Not these two. You mean Fauci?
Yeah, Fauci, Birx, Redfield, and there's for those three, there's a whole for every one of those three, there's another 25 doctors behind the scenes and these government bureaucratic doctors in the medical community that are complete phonies, frauds. They've been busted. We broke a number of stories about them being busted for phony research. And Fauci with Dr. Judy Mikovits saying the guy was a tyrant, borderline criminal. I would say over the not borderline criminal, and stole her research, stole her credit for HIV/AIDS breakthroughs, gave it to a buddy, and just vicious stuff. And what are they doing up there? What in the hell are they doing up there? And then, tonight we're going to talk about some crazy stuff too along those lines. Where are the people who We're the people who are supposed to safeguard us as a country and keep us safe? What have they been doing? Why do they continue to fail? Is it malfeasance? Is it fecklessness? Is it ignorance? Or is it on purpose because it's some kind of a protection racket? And you know where I stand on that. And we've been able to back up what we say about these guys running a protection racket for the rich and famous and the elite. And this is another layer that I don't think that they expected this part of the onion to be peeled back by the American public, who are sitting at home saying there are a number of things that are resonating incorrectly with the American public, and we want answers. And the worst thing for these fraudsters is now the spotlight is on them, and that's life. Like, there's two different spotlights. There's a spotlight when they're in front of these dopes in the press corps joking, and like Fauci on March 9th said, it's okay to go on cruise ships, but I personally wouldn't go on a cruise ship. I don't like cruise ships. I don't like the buffet. But if you're healthy, you can go on a cruise ship. And I'm like, what? These things were incubators for the virus, you dope. It's a petri dish. What's he talking about? And then a month later, he's like, cruise ships are very dangerous and they're a significant risk. It's like, what planet did you drop out of? Who is this guy? And you look at these things and they don't add up. And it's like I've said to you before, right? And other people recently, it's okay as Americans, we're busy and we have our own lives. We understand that the government is so big that there is, I wouldn't call it an acceptable level of corruption, but there's a tolerable level of corruption. It's like, whatever.
Well, there's an inherent level of corruption.
Yeah, okay. You want to steal some money? I'm busy. I don't have time to do anything about it or care. Go ahead and steal some money, right? It's like spillage when you own a business. You're going to lose some product, right? But now it's affecting everyone, and they've taken it to another level, and it's a problem. And now we're seeing that there are places like Harvard involved. And notice no one in the media, not one single media organization on the left or on the right really is looking at Harvard. So we decided we'll start looking at it and start asking questions. And I have to tell you, what we're finding is alarming. This place to be shut down after this is over. It is brutal. And this goes back not just years, this goes back decades. And we're going to get into that. And we're going to pick these guys. Look, I have a very proven methodology of dissecting frauds, schemers, and idiots and dopes. And I do. It works.
I know.
And in Intel, I made a considerable amount of money at it because I was very good at it. And so Harvard has joined the ranks of and a true pundit of the Clinton Foundation, Bill Gates, and Harvard. Those three for the rest of the year, we are going to pound like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. We're going to pound it with like a hammer on a regular basis, and that's enough. I mean, those could be three separate books with the schemes that they've all run, and they all coincide. They're all in the same sphere of this medical schemes, vaccine schemes. Harvard's taking it to another level, though. I mean, we're going to get into that later in tonight's show, but these guys have gotten.
Here's Harvard. These are the geniuses at Harvard. They're going to get pounded.
Think about it, right? You could read between the lines about what we're going to be talking about tonight, but look who, Obama went to Harvard. And a lot of these top guys in the government are Harvard guys and Ivy League guys. This is like, I would call this poison ivy, right? These guys are bad news. And what they've done to the country, it goes back decades, but more specifically in the last several years, in relation to these viruses and these biowarfare, Chinese biowarfare, this is bad stuff. And the feds are looking at this. I'm not making this stuff up. I don't know a damn thing about Chinese biowarfare, right? But they're telling me this stuff. So I'm the conduit. They tell me, I do the research, I talk to other people, and then I tell you folks what's going on. And we have a good track record of telling folks way before other people tell folks, because I don't know, we do. We don't hold things back. I think other people hold things back, and they get their publishers and their billionaire benefactors. They could be friends with a guy like Gates. They could have ties to Harvard, right? They could be friends with the Clintons. They're not going to. You think Murdoch over at Fox is going to release any of this stuff? You're insane. That's not going to happen, right? So I don't care, because the name of the game for me is to beat everybody else. As soon as we beat everybody else, I'm happy, and then we move on to something else, right? In other words, another facet where we could dig deeper. And I know this might sound crazy. I'm having a ball, because this is all in my wheelhouse. Medical fraud schemes, all my wheelhouse, investigating this stuff, and it has been since I was a kid. When I say a kid, I mean young 20s. And it couldn't be better for me, and that's why we're getting a lot of traction, because I understand these schemes, and I've worked so many of them in the private sector. You know, some guys are big name schemers that on not quite on the level of Bernie Madoff, but close, right?
Yeah.
They all have the same. All the recipes are the same. Like, they all think that they're James Bond, and they're tricky, and they can get away with all this stuff, but they're really not that bright once they get too wrapped into these things. But the problem we have is, bro, and I'll shut up after this because I've been rambling. The problem we have is a lot of the guys who are supposed to be watching these guys aren't that bright either. They're not that bright. And that goes to that's a retention problem. A lot of smart people leave Intel because they can't navigate, and they can't work alongside a system that's run by stupid people and ignorant people. No, I'm dead serious.
Well, so this is why people leave the FBI.
You lose a lot of talent, right? I'm talking about FBI, DEA, Treasury. Smart people are like, you know what, I've been here 5 years, 6 years. I'm out of here. I can't do this another 13, 15 years. That's
Mike,
insane.
let me ask you this. Is this not a picture of Harvard University President Lawrence Summers at a fancy dinner sitting right next to Rupert Murdoch?
These guys are all in the same, you look at past presidents of Harvard. You look at Harvard president traveling back and forth to Beijing to meet with the Chinese president. Okay, like, what is going on here? What specifically is happening here with all these past presidents and things? And I wait till you find out as time goes on. Now we're at the beginning stages of this, and we're also working Gates, and we're working the Clinton Foundation and vaccines, and WHO and PEPFAR and the Global Fund. And it's like they're all in bed together. It's really maddening that these guys have gotten away with this scheme for a long time. And like I said, the FBI, I don't mean to besmirch everybody.
Oh, you slowed down there. Comcast is messing with you a bit tonight. The FBI does what?
The FBI has obviously some good people, but if they can't get the case up the flagpole, it's lost.
It's useless.
It's useless. And they've tried to get the case up the flagpole on this a number of times, and it always gets kicked in their face. So they walk away because they want to keep their jobs, and they go on to something else. They'll go chase a dope like me. They'll go chase somebody like Roger Stone, or they'll go chase somebody like Manafort. Manafort's indictment, they were bringing up stuff that happened in the 1980s. It's like the only thing missing from that indictment was, as an exhibit, was a bone from the Jurassic era. I mean, it was like what?
You can use that to do a hip graft for Joe Biden to be contemporary.
Yeah, he might need that. He might need that.
So, Mike, for people who are tuning in for the first time, maybe haven't seen you, I don't know who that would be, but of course, you are the editor-in-chief of TruePundit.com. You've been breaking tremendous stories, particularly in the area of law enforcement and the FBI. We're going to be talking tonight on our sponsor exclusive show, More Pain, which is going to start in just about 15 minutes on patreon.com/TruePundit, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You're going to be dropping some major news, as we have now gotten to a regular practice of doing, about everything that's going on at Harvard with some of these people who have been in, well, actually, who haven't been in the mainstream news.
No, and they've gotten a pass in this whole thing, and it's bothered me. I said in my podcast yesterday, why do these guys get a pass? I don't understand. And, I was being kind of like, sometimes I lead the folks listening a little bit, and I drop things. And then today I came back and I said, I dropped these breadcrumbs on purpose because I like to circle back and say, we've got something coming. Other people may have forgotten about these guys who are intentionally are glossing over these facts, but we're not. And when we say something, it's because that's coming out of D.C. By the feds, right? They're saying stuff, and there's also a level of frustration now with the feds and with Harvard already. They're getting pushback, okay, from Christopher Wray and that whole crew.
Wow.
So, we're going to get into that, and it's disturbing. And it's just another level of, I think there's a lot of little tug of wars going on in the Justice Department and the FBI, and it's a daily basis for some of these agents to navigate that. And you really don't know until it's too late. In other words, until a case blows up or they won't follow through with it. Really, who's on your side? Guys get inside of the DOJ and FBI, they get sold out all the time. And Treasury, and IRS, CID, they get sold out. They work the case, and then it goes up the ladder, and nothing happens. And they're like, where's the case? These are career cases. Can you imagine putting some of these guys behind bars, leading some of these people out of universities and former presidents of the United States in handcuffs and former first lady? Those are career cases for a federal agent.
Well, they're history-making cases, Mike, because not just the guy's career, it's going to set us straight as a country where these people who have money and prestige, they can't just do whatever they want if it's against the law. There is something important that I do want to share with everyone, because I think most of our viewers are aware that you've been doing this incredibly popular podcast, the Thomas Paine Podcast. People can get it on Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it's called right now, Google Podcasts, etc. But actually, recently, some of our more Paine viewers may not know, you've added a new feature, which is Paine in the Morning. People can listen to that as a podcast, and sponsors of patreon.com/TruePundit get exclusive video of the Paine in the Morning podcast. So fans of TruePundit.com can get more multimedia content from Mike if they get onto Patreon and subscribe to the podcast. We've got just a couple minutes here, Mike, before we transition over to the sponsor exclusive show. Anything else you want to tell everybody before we reset for that?
No, I appreciate the support, and people are like, oh, your voice is getting out there. Your voice is, you're getting a lot of traffic and stuff, and the same could be applied to you in the same regard. We're just telling the truth. That's all. So yeah, it should spread because there's no bullshit. It's just, look, these are the facts, and I don't owe anybody. I don't owe fucking Rupert Murdoch. I don't owe Bill Clinton. I don't know Barack Obama. I don't owe anybody anything. If anything, they owe me. So I think if you have it, and I want to say to a lot of people who are reading and listening to different media, you can tell, okay, who's shooting straight and who's not. And you know it in your gut, right? And you have to find, not just me and not just Jason, you have to find people that are giving you the skinny, the truth, the real way it is, because you don't have time and we don't have opportunities now in our lives to make mistakes and follow bad advice and things like that, because the chips are down, man. Look, we're all locked up in our houses. We're losing money. We're losing our businesses. The kids
we're losing our time. People are missing out on relationships, opportunities, time we will never get back.
Yeah, exactly. And think about, no one talks about this, and I started thinking about this the other day. What about the emotional and the psychological toll on all of us, our families, our kids, our parents, our grandparents? How can you put it? People are like, oh, well, the economy will bounce back. Great. If that happens, it's going to take, I think, years. But number two, and actually it should be number one, what about us? What about the emotional toll it's taken on all of us? And every person's different. And those things are exacerbated by financial situations and struggles. This is a massive time in our history, a very confusing time, and there's so much misinformation out there. We need to find some lighthouses out here and follow them, and I do too. There's certain sources I follow religiously, right, and everybody else, I'm like, nope, nope, something's off with those people. They're still singing the praises of this person or that person, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense. How could you? These are crucial times, and this is a very difficult crossroad in our history. But not only that, in our personal history with our families and things, and it's stressful, and it's there's a lot of anxiety, and I don't have all the answers, but I think if we tell people the truth, that's a good start.
Yeah. I think that we're experiencing some growth right now because there's an increased hunger for the truth. I think people realize that something's wrong, that they've been lied to, that the news doesn't seem quite right, the events going on around them don't seem quite right. So a lot of people have been coming to TruePundit.com and to crowdsource the truth because they can tell that whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC, when we've got these, multi-million dollar and multi-billion dollar corporations paying the news correspondents huge sums, being sponsored by huge advertisers that are maybe pharmaceutical companies, maybe telecom companies that want 5G. You did a great interview with Robert Kennedy Jr. on the podcast where he spoke about, despite a personal relationship with Roger Ailes of Fox News, he couldn't get on there to talk about his charity and some of the problems with laws having to do with vaccine testing. It's really a big deal. And, there's so many people who want to just turn this into a binary argument where it's you're anti-vax or you're taking this untested vaccine. This is so much more of a nuanced argument that we really need a new format where we can talk about this stuff, not a 90-second segment and not a news show that's sponsored by some billionaire corporation that has some agenda that's not aligned with the everyman on the street. Mike, you've helped me create this micro sponsorship format where the viewers sponsor the show, and we've eliminated this undue economic influence that huge corporations have on the news. I think people are taking notice and they're becoming sponsors. They're going to join us in just about 5 minutes on patreon.com/TruePundit, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'll see you there, Mike. We got a lot to talk about.
Thanks, brother.
And thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you over on Patreon and Subscribestar.